I told you that last year's campers suggested that there would be one day when we have all of the Hall of Famers stay in one spot and the teams rotate. Tomorrow we're going to do that. The Hall of Famers will all stay in an area and do the same thing each of the 5 periods. You're going to be a half hour in the batting cages. You're going to be working a fundamental, the rundown play tomorrow. You're going to have live hitting. You're going to have one half hour of defensive play with outfielders and fly balls and the infielders taking ground balls, throwing to all bases, and tomorrow Lou Brock will have his area on sliding. So you'll be able to slide tomorrow. This is a talkative little group tonight. Everybody feels pretty good. Not enough injuries yet. I'd like to take this time to introduce some people here that a lot of you are probably wondering who these beautiful ladies are around here. I would like to have them each stand up as I call their name. Ann Feller. Barbara Robinson. Dottie Reese. Mary Roberts. Roxy Campanella. Henny Sharfman. Bev Snider. And Frances, I didn't get to give you any Valentine today, but my own wife, Frances. Saved a little money there. All right, the games today. Boy, I want to tell you something. I had some quotes today from these managers that you can't believe. But I'm going to read them to you. I want you to hear it. The first game out there today, Vero Beach 4, Bakersfield 16. At the news conference, I overheard this. At the news conference after the game, I heard manager Frank Robinson make this statement. First of all, he told his players, keep your heads up. It's not where you are today, but where you will be at the end of the camp. Think that over. He told the press, he said, we didn't do too many things bad. We made a lot of fielding mistakes today, but we'll tighten that up and we'll be right in there at the end. Now, he was a little miffed. He was a little upset, and I think he was a little upset at Al Kaline and the other team because at the end of the game with a 12-run lead, the report was that the Bakersfield club was stealing a little bit and running away. Now this is the other good quote that I heard from manager Robinson. We asked him who was the Potato Head Award winner, and without batting an eye, he says Gary LaRock, his coach. I said, what do you mean? You can't have Gary LaRock as a Potato Head Award winner. He says, why not? He said he pitched against his own team, struck out 9, and only gave up 9 hits. But anyway, we did finally, after he got with his staff and just talked everything over, he did change his mind and he said the Potato Head Award, and I want to explain this first of all. To those of you who are new, there's somebody in here, and I can't see him right now, who is a good role model for this potato head. But the potato head was originated in Dodger Stadium about 4 or 5 years ago. We had a trainer that had a head just like that, exactly like that, and Paul Padilla. And every time there was that the Dodgers won a game, they presented this potato head to the fellow who contributed the most to that win. So we started carrying it on here at in our adult camps, and it's been a big item. So the Potato Head Award for the Vero Beach Club went to a man who went 3 for 3, had a long double. They say he hit it real well. Harry Drumet.
All right, yeah.
There you are, Harry. There you are.
All right, Harry. Yeah. Thank you, Coach, for that.
Well, that was just the losers. The winners. Manager Kaline, in his news press conference, said that his team fielded very well. He was really surprised how well in just one day. I mean, these guys came out of the north, out of the woods in Maine, and started fielding the ball that well. And he said, I saw once out there they made a quick double play from short to second to first. It was eye-popping. So somebody had done a good job with that group already. And he also said that they were very consistent with the bats when they had runners in scoring position. He mentioned a few people. Norman Kent. He said, now, with a body like Norman's got, Norman told me after the game that he had a lot of trouble beating out some of his hits. He said he hit the ball very well, but it just took him a long while to get to first base, and somebody threw him out. They mentioned Mike Wyman, who's been at our camps, and that Mike had 2 or 3 solid hits, and he's our answer to Branch Rickey's left-handed catcher. He's the only left-handed catcher we got in camp. But the Potato Head Award went to a man who caught 5 innings, plus having a couple of base hits, and was on base every time at bat, Walter Benson.
Thank you very much. Three more away. Still too old.
Now the second game over in the stadium. That was a wild affair over there. I was over there at the end of 5 innings. San Antonio was beating up on Albuquerque 10-2.
All right.
But at the end of the game,
oh no,
Albuquerque won 27-12. I heard that they have on tape the remarks that Ernie Banks and Hoyt Wilhelm made to their team, and I noticed when at the press conference afterwards they were not discouraged. Both of them said that they made some errors at crucial times, but they'll be back. Their club will be back tomorrow and be out there. And in fact, Ernie said maybe they'll play 2 tomorrow. Someone said they played 2 today. The San Antonio Potato Head Award winner was given to a man who went 3 for 3, Dick Morris.
We'll get him tomorrow, Sam.
yeah, all right. Not you eat that thing. Yeah.
Now the winning manager, Manager Roberts, stated at the conference that when he was down 10-2, he was not worried at all with his being down that much. He said, and this is right from his own lips. He says, you know, we got a lot of farm boys on this club, and it takes a lot of time for them to warm up and get themselves going, and they did. he praised two of his players, Dan Pullis, who had an inside the park home run.
All right.
And also Martin Walker, the catcher, who did a good job and caught the whole ball game for him. Now this is an amazing thing, and Duke, some of you fellows remember this today at the draft session. I didn't think that he knew what he was doing when he was making all these drafts, but he said today at the draft meeting, there was a name came up. He said, you know, that name reminds me of a fellow that the Dodgers used to have who hit 60 home runs in the minor league, set a record. His name was Joe Hauser. And the Potato Head Award winner today for this ball club was Tim Hauser. You know what you're doing, Robbie. I told you this morning when we were starting to run out of time out there that I would, before I turn this over to Duke and the rest of them and talk about hitting, that I would go into the big game, the rules of that game, so you'll know a little bit about it. Charlie mentioned something about it when we were out there, that the winning team of our Grapefruit League will play the first and the second innings. And in the standings, you will play that way for the rest of the day. All the other teams will play 2 innings according to the final standings of the league. Tiebreakers. Well, we're not going to have any ties this year as far as games, but you could have in the standing. The first tiebreaker is head-to-head competition. If the team that you're tied with beats you in an actual game, then they would be in the second place or first place or whatever it may be. The second is the total number of runs scored. You see, now that's why our Kaline was stealing in the last few innings. He knows what he's doing. He's trying to score those runs. Ooh. Every camper in the camper game with the instructors will bat at least once, and at least half the team will bat in the first 2 innings allotted to them. We'll explain that to you later on during the week. The instructors are always the home team. A pass list will be available in the clubhouse the morning before the big game, so that you can write any number of your wife or your girlfriends or whatever. You can write their names down there, and they'll get in free to the game. Now, the one rule that we put in last year and it worked out was that for the instructors, there's a limit of the number of runs we can score in 1 inning. A limit of 2 runs per inning for the instructors, unless more runs are scored on the last hit. Last year, Lou Brock hit a home run out of the ballpark, and so we might have scored 3 or 4 runs that inning. So, and also, if the instructors are behind in the last inning, we can go ahead and cut it. We don't expect that to happen. No intentional walks in this final game, and this is called the Lasorda rule that we had to throw in. Last year in the fall adult camp, Tommy went to bat, and the pitcher walked him, so he stayed at bat. He walked him again, so he stayed at bat until finally we had to drag him off the field. But there's no staying if you get a walk, you walk. So there's no staying at bat and hitting all day long. Anybody have any questions on that? We'll explain a lot more of those rules to you as we go on.
When do we play?
Wait a minute, did I hear, is that Warren? You play tomorrow, Warren, and be ready. I heard that you had that club all fired up out there in your workout today.
Who do we play?
Who do you play?
We want to play a winner.
You play San Antonio tomorrow.
They win today?
No.
They win tomorrow.
So you better win.
Sit down!
I'm getting the union after you. You make a what, 250?
He's fined $100,000 for missing practice.
He's not 100,000.
last night when we had we ended our meeting in here, we had everybody stand up and tell them what your name was and where you were from and why you were here in camp. How many missed that? How many didn't get up last night?
Sleepyhead.
All right, Sleepyhead. Would you get up and tell them what your name is, where you're from, and why you're here? Yeah.
Why am I here? Okay, my name is Jim Grulich, and I'm from Los Angeles, California, and I am here to play with the Hall of Famers. My wife gave me this gift for Christmas, and I think it's a great gift for me, and I'm happy to be here. Thank you.
All right.
My name is Mel Barron. I'm from San Diego, California. I was up this summer in Lake Tahoe, and the Dodgers, Dodgertown, were nice enough to give a week for United Cerebral Palsy, and I was the high bidder for that, and I won a week period.
Good.
I'm Mel Ryder from Los Angeles and Fallbrook, and I'm here because my wife, my son, my daughter sent me down here for my 50th birthday.
Good. I've got some over here at this table. Jay, you want to start it off?
I'm Jay Goldinger, and after making 27 errors last year, I figured I had to improve by coming back this year.
I'm Silver Goldinger, Jay's father. And I want to thank you all for inviting me.
I'm Chris Malbert from Los Angeles, California, and I'm not exactly sure why I'm here after having seen what I did today.
I'm Marty Burson from Central California, and I'm responsible for coaching Jay Goldinger here, and how anybody can make 27 errors. I got to see it in person, so that's why I'm here.
Is there anybody that we missed?
I'm Ernie Banks.
Brian, go, I'm Ernie Banks. How do you feel?
Okay. Tonight, I think you guys have got a treat in store for you. We're going to talk about hitting in the big leagues, and who better to start it off? We're going to try to get all of the regular players and possibly some of the pitchers to say a few words tonight about hitting and what they had to do to become good hitters in the big leagues. But who would better to start it off than two our hitting instructors down here this year? The one, Harmon Killebrew, who hit 573 career home runs, second only to Babe Ruth in the American League. And Duke Snider, who had 40 home runs 5 straight seasons and drove in 100 runs 4 consecutive seasons. Now, those are pretty good records. Those are pretty good numbers to have up here to start out. Duke, you want to start it off?
Spotty's the only guy that's ever come up to me and says, "You beat me one time with a bunt." Remember that, Pee-wee? Pee-wee told me to do it. He was on third. He said, "You can't hit him, you might as well bunt him." We did. We beat him top of the 9th inning. 2 outs. Pee-wee was on third. I put a bunt down the third base line, and the game was over. Anyway, huh?
Spawn wants to know how I got on.
You got it. He hung one. Well, we've got some guys here tonight that are going to talk to you about hitting, not only Harmon and myself, but we've got Pee-wee and Ernie, Al, Brock, Campanella, Robinson, and I don't know, Bob, I understand you were a pretty good hitter, feller.
I thought I was too until the longest hit I ever got the scorekeeper told to bunt.
Well, we do have a couple of pitchers now. The only time that I ever faced you, Bob, was in a game out in Los Angeles after the season in a barnstorming game, but I never saw you hit. But we've got a couple of guys that I know that can hit that might join in, and Spawny's one of them. Robin Roberts is another. Marichal used to hurt you once in a while. And I know that first at bat in the big leagues, Wilhelm hit a home run, his only home run. He might want to talk about that, I don't know.
Pitching after that.
Started pitching. Anyway, what we're going to do is talk a little bit of hitting, and I'm going to start it off just briefly, because we do most of our talking over in the batting cages, Harmon and I anyway. And tomorrow we're going to have the hitting tee over there. And there are a couple of clubs that didn't look like many of the players needed much work today. That 27-12 game or whatever, I saw every bit of that. And these guys, once you learn to hit the ball on the ground instead of in the air, well, you're all right. And that's what we try to teach over in the batting cages, especially off the tee, is to move the ball with some authority on the line or on the ground. Because, as you know, there's some age involved in this group. And that ground gets an inch or two further away every year. And I speak from experience. It's tough to get down and get that ball, and especially if it's hit with some authority. And that's what Pee Wee was talking to him today over in the batting cages about. He says, hit the ball on the ground, because most of those soft fly balls everybody wants. I remember one time when I was with the Mets, and I was in '63, and the year before they'd lost 120 games, and the next year with me on the club we lost 111. So I improved them 9 games. But Chico Fernandez, now he was an ex-Dodger. There was a pop fly went up between short and third, and Chico hollered, I got it, I got it. And Jim Hickman came over and knocked the ball out of his glove just as he's about to catch it. And Chico said, Hickman, he says, anything hit in the air and I say I got it, I got it. Anything on the ground you want, you take it. So with that in mind, tomorrow we're going to work on you and try to hit the ball a little hard on the ground, because that's going to be so important for you. The grip of the bat is important. Some of you are squeezing the bat too tight, and I'm sure we'll get into that. And a lot of you lift the ball, and you just don't want to do that. You want to try and just get on top of the ball and just move it somewhere and with some authority, and you'll do all right. And of course, a lot of runs scored today, and you've got your coaches and your managers are such good instructors that you're getting it during the game. You're getting that good instruction. But tomorrow, the pitchers pitch, so it's going to be a little bit different story, because they're going to be trying to get you out. Guys that pitched to you today were laying it in there for you to hit, so it's going to be a little different situation. But all in all, I liked what I saw, and it looked like great defense at Holman Stadium for 3 innings. And then all of a sudden, I don't know what happened, but there was 20-some errors in that game. And the scorekeepers were very lenient. It could have been 30 or so. So I asked my son one time, my oldest son, Kevin, he was going to coach a Little League team for the first time. I said, what are you going to do with these guys? He says, the first thing I'm going to teach them is how to throw it and catch it and field it. He said, if we can field it, throw it, and catch it, we'll beat most of these teams. And I think basically that's what we've got to learn here. We've got to learn how to field it and throw it a little bit better and catch it, because that's basically a good defense makes a pretty good offense, because then you don't have to score as many runs. So I'm going to bring Harmon up here, and then I'm going to come back and bring up a couple of guys. So one story before we go. You know why they have a no intentional walk rule here now? Last November, there are a few of these guys that were here that remember this. Drysdale and Padres, who are quite a combination, needless to say, together. Drysdale's a manager, Padres is his coach, his pitching coach. We got a game over here on diamond number 1, and there are 2 outs, and Don's team got 8 runs in the first inning, and they're nursing a 8-6 ball game. They got runners on second and third and 2 outs, and the best hitter in camp is at the plate. And I walked by Drysdale, and I said, why don't you walk him intentionally? And something clicked in Don's mind, and he says, Johnny, that's a good idea, isn't it? So they put up 4 fingers like this. Put him on. Ball 1, ball 2, ball 3, and as ball 3 came into the catcher, he got a real smart idea. he's going to pick the runner off third. He threw the ball into left field. The 2 runs scored, the runner from third, the runner from second. The count is 3 balls and no strikes on the hitter. Padres hollered, "You can pitch to the hitter now." That's why we have the no intentional walk rule, I think. Okay, we'll bring Harmon up here, and then we'll get going with the other guys.
Thank you very much, Duke. It's my pleasure to be back here for the second year, and I can truly say it is a pleasure. And don't let my haircut bother you, because, you know, when God made heads, he made some round, he made some square, but those that he didn't particularly care of, he covered with hair. Another thing that don't let it bother you, these glasses. And we had a guy, and we've got some guys from Minnesota here. We had an old announcer named Halsey Hall, and he said when he was announcing Don Mitcher at a Twins luncheon, a welcome Twins luncheon one spring, he said, "Mitch, don't let the glasses bother you." He said, "I use them myself." He said, "But most of the time I just drink it right out of the bottle." I don't know about hitting. You know, I enjoyed hitting. I think that's a fun part of the game, and I always tried to live under the old KISS formula: keep it simple, stupid. I think hitting is a thing that's the most difficult thing to do, but try to keep it as simple as possible. One of the guys asked me today who was the most difficult pitcher I ever faced in baseball. Well, all these guys faced a lot of tough hitters or pitchers when they were hitting over the years. I remember Feller, of course. He was just finishing up when I came into the American League, and he was throwing a lot of those slow curveballs, and I never got to see Bob when he was throwing that real fastball that he had. Hit against Marichal and Robin Roberts and some of these other guys that are really tough pitchers. Whitey Ford and Don Drysdale and Koufax at their peaks. But the guy that gave me more trouble than any other pitcher that I've ever faced in the game of baseball was Stu Miller. Ernie, could you hit Stu Miller? Well, Hoyt Wilhelm may have been one of the toughest pitchers that I've ever faced in the game. And Hoyt, of course, threw the knuckleball, and for you ladies that are here, if you don't know what a knuckleball looks like when it's coming to the plate, it kind of looks like a butterfly coming up there, and it dances and it does a lot of different things. And I asked Hoyt one time if he knew where the ball was going when he released it. He said, "No." He said, "I just start it towards home plate and it just goes where it will." And I always thought they ought to outlaw that pitch rather than the spitter, because the pitcher doesn't know where it's going, the hitter can't hit it, the umpire doesn't know whether to call it a ball or strike, or the umpire doesn't know whether to call it a ball or strike. The catcher can't catch it to give him a great big old glove to try to knock it down with, and that's a tough pitch. But Stu Miller was so tough for me because he had that motion. And I want to tell you guys, because Duke and I talk about hitting, and we try to be real scientific. And I couldn't hit Miller, so I tried to do something very scientific to hitting. And he was with the Giants the first time I saw him in the All-Star game in 1961 in Candlestick Park. And you remember that game. He took a stretch on the mound, the wind blew him off. He was in Baltimore, and I tried everything. I'd run up in the batter's box, try to hit the ball to second base, and I'd pull it in the third base coaching box. I tried to hit flat-footed, tried everything against him, and he'd throw that slow curveball, and it was almost like it was on a string. He'd throw it up there, and like he would bring it back on a string. He'd throw his shoulder and his head and his hips and everything at you. And so I thought, well, I'll just try something. He took his stretch, and this was one of the first pitchers I ever saw. And Al, you know now, a lot of the pitchers are doing with nobody on base. Miller would take that stretch, and he'd throw that slow curveball with nobody on base. And I'd look for that slow curveball, and I thought to myself, I'll try something very scientific. When he releases the ball, I'll count to 3, and I'll swing. And this is really scientific, isn't it? So he took his stretch, and he released the ball, and I went 1, 2, 3 to myself. so nobody else would hear, and I swung and I hit a home run off of it. And I thought, boy, Mr. Miller, I got you now. I got one more base hit off of Miller. All the time he was in the American League, he was there 5 years. And if he'd have been there, if I'd had to face him every day, I'd have been back in Payette, Idaho real fast, I'll tell you that. But he was the toughest guy that I've ever faced in the game of baseball. What I was thinking is when we talk about baseball, and Duke and I and Al do television broadcasting, I never thought much about statistics when I was playing, but when I retired, statistics become a really important part of the game of baseball. And so I started to think about those when I retired and doing television games, so I looked up my own statistics. Now, I knew how many home runs I hit. Guy mentioned I hit 573 home runs. I knew that. That wasn't a big thing to me. But I looked up the other statistics, and I found out that over the years I drove in 1,584 runs in the big leagues. And I scored 1,283 runs, and I found out that I got 2,086 hits in the big leagues. Then I found out I played 2,435 games. Then I walked 1,559 times, and I struck out, and this is a stat that I'm really not very proud of, but it's a fact, that I struck out 1,699 times. Now, if you add my strikeouts and my walks together, that's 3,258 times at bat. And you know that a player's not credited anything for a walk, and you certainly get nothing for a strikeout. And on the average of a player, if he plays every day, goes to bat 500 times in a season. Considering that's true, and considering my walks and my strikeouts total over 3,000 at-bats, that means that I went to home plate a total of 6 years and did absolutely nothing. Now, those are really Hall of Fame stats, aren't they? You can do a lot of things with statistics if you want to. I was impressed today with Kaline's team. I think he did an outstanding job of drafting his players. The guys that I saw over there today were just really awesome. So what I'd like to do is to call up the manager of the winning ball club today, Al Kaline, and Al, if you'll talk to us a little bit about this.
I'd like to take credit for the drafting, but I must say that Joe did an excellent job of scouting the day before, and he came into the conference room with about 10, 15 guys. Listen, these guys are great. We got to get them. Bob Feller came in with about 4 names and said, this guy can throw, this guy's good. So I'd like to take credit, but Joe did an excellent job of scouting the players, and we were fortunate enough to get at least, I think, 4 of the players we had hoped to get, and it worked out. By far, they played a great game today, particularly defensively. And you're talking, Duke, about just being able to catch the ball and throw the ball. That's exactly what we were able to do today. I think we made 2 errors, but our infield just picked the ball great. I mean, they were just super, some shots. And they played with a lot of enthusiasm. Robin Roberts was giving us all kind of hell about picking older guys. And here our most valuable player today, I think, might be one of the older guys here.
Yeah, but he's on drugs out.
Getting back to hitting, Duke was saying about the fundamentals. My theory on hitting was hit the ball on the ground and try to hit line drives. I knew that if I hit the ball up in the air too many times, I was going to make out. So I concentrated as a hitter in the big leagues trying to hit the ball on the line and on the ground. I figure if you hit the ball on the ground, you got a chance to get on base or maybe the ball get in the hole. But if you hit, I wasn't a big, strong guy, so if I hit the ball in the air too many times, it's going to be an easy fly ball. So there was no big, I had no big secrets about hitting. Of course, the older you get a little smarter against certain pitchers, but my whole philosophy on hitting was trying to hit the ball hard on the ground and a line drive, and hopefully don't hit the ball in the same spot too often and move the infielders and outfielders around. And I was fortunate enough to be able to run very well my first 15, 18 years I play. So I have no great secrets to give any of you guys, except to, in this camp, particularly my guys, I'd like to see a few more ground balls instead of pop flies. That's it.
Kaline makes it sound simple, but Al Kaline, I think for about 10 years in the American League, in my opinion, Al Kaline was the best all-around player in the American League over a 10-year period. Al was just great, outstanding, not only offensively but defensively in right field for the Tigers. Another guy that I've always admired was a great player not only in the American League but in the National League. A guy that's just ahead of me in the home run pace. I wish I'd have played another year so I could have beat him, Frank Robinson. Frank.
What are you booing me for? I kept it around 2 more years when I came up as a rookie. Hadn't it been for me, you'd been retired a couple of years earlier. No, I tell you, you have a lot of outstanding hitters here, and I have no real secrets about hitting myself. Al said he tried to hit the ball on the ground. I tried to hit the ball in the air. My theory was to try to make good, solid contact. If I was up 4 or 5 times a ball game, I wanted to hit the ball hard, at least 3 or 4 times. If I hit the ball hard 3 or 4 times, I felt like I had a chance. And that was my theory on hitting. Let it go. See the ball, swing the bat, make contact, and let it go where it wanted to go. When I first came along as a young ball player, though, I tried to use the entire field. In other words, spread out the defense, keep it honest. And I did. I hit a lot of home runs to right center when I first came up, hit a lot of balls in the gap, and I spread the defense out. As I got older and got a little wiser, got a little smarter, I guess a little stronger, knew the pitches a little better in the league, I started to pull the ball a little bit better. I could look for pitches. And I got hit 198 times. I was mistaken a few times. I was looking for the fastball, the curveball, as a matter of fact, and got a few fastballs up here. But Spunny and Robbie and Juan used to tell me that I was leaning out on the plate, so they had to get the territory. But I told them maybe on 2 or 3 of them, but not all those. Not 98 of them anyway. 198. But hitting is tough. And we have no secrets here. We're not going to be able to make you guys Hall of Fame hitters while you're here. Not in a week anyway. If you give us a couple of weeks, we might be able to do something with you. Speaking of the ball game today, I tell you, Bureau Beach players, don't worry about it. We were a little, well, let's go back. Al gave his coaches, you know, a lot of credit for the draft. And I have to do the same. I don't want to take any credit. You know. I want to give my coaches a lot of credit. But we'll be back. Don't worry about it. Right, guys? Right, James? All right. Where was I? I tell you, as I came along as a youngster, I admit without trying to pat myself on the back, I had a lot of natural ability, but I didn't really know what hitting was all about when I first came along. And I had some success in the lower minor leagues. As I moved up through the minors, the pitchers got a little tougher, and I had a few problems. And I had arm problems in 1955 after having a pretty good year in the same league in 54. I had to go back to the same league. And I had trouble hitting a changeup because my shoulder was so sore and so bad I just couldn't swing the bat.
Now you tell me.
No, that was before I got to the big leagues. That's funny. Anyhow, I was looking at an old-timer down there here. His name was Marv Williams, and he had the bat just parallel to the ground on his shoulder, and he was hitting line drives all over the place. And I said, gee, that's not a bad stance. The way I'm going, I'm not doing anything anyway. Instead of holding the bat this way, I'll put it over my shoulder. And I started to hit that way. Standing straight up with the bat over my shoulder. And I had a decent month and a half. And I went to the big leagues the next year. I figured I was a youngster coming into the big leagues at 20 years old against all these smart pitchers, that the best thing for me to do was take the outside part of the plate away from them. So I crouched over the plate, put my body, top half of my body over the plate, protected the outside part of the plate, choked up on the bat about 2 inches, and hit just that way for 9 years. And don't tell anybody that you lose power by choking up on the bat. You don't do it. So I got smart 11 years later and changed my stance again. Because in April, I wasn't getting the ball in the air. I would go through April and May and hit 125, 190. So I changed my stance. I went back straight up, put the bat down here, and I got off to a good start. And I hit that way the rest of my career. But what you have to do as a hitter, you have to find what is comfortable for yourself and what's good for you, and hit that way. We can work with you, with the mechanics and things like that, but you have to feel good. We can't go out here and make everybody the same type of hitter. And that's the main thing about hitting. And just go out there. And another thing is, I think everybody today on the Vero Beach Ball Club was trying to be the hero, hit the ball out of the ballpark. The head was turning. I tell you, you guys must have sore necks now. Is that right? The head was turning, or you knew somebody over there on the other field. You were just trying to do too much today. The thing about it is, Duke had said, you got to make good, and Al also, you got to make good, solid contact. And just try to put the ball in play and put the burden on the defense. We had 9 strikeouts. We was up against a tough pitcher today. You're not going to see any better. I know that. None better until maybe the last game. I know Sparty's not going to give you anything to hit. I know that. I know Warren's not going to give you anything to hit. But the campers that were here last year, they must tell you that you got a piece of cake compared to last year. Because Bob Gibson was here last year. Bob Gibson took nothing. Okay? If you took a good swing, he knocked you down. So you got a break. He's not here this year. So it won't be as tough. But I tell you, as you walk around, and we'll stand here a little later, if you have any questions you want to ask about hitting or whatever, I'd be glad to. But that was no secret. Who was my toughest pitcher to hit when I came along? Over my entire career in the National League, it was Don Drysdale, because it was like a war with Don. I'm on the plate, Don didn't like that. As a matter of fact, we were playing in 1961. That's the year Cincinnati won the pennant. We're battling, and it's the All-Star break coming up after the 3 ball games. We're going to play in the Coliseum against the Dodgers. And we had beat them up pretty good in the first ball game, and Don was pitching. Don threw at me 3 times. He missed me. The umpire said, time. He went out to the mound. He says, 1 more pitch like that, you're out of the game. Well, sure enough, the umpire came back behind the plate. He didn't throw at me. He hit me in the ribs. He hit me, and he was gone. That's the way he was. He was a real competitor. Nothing was mean about him, but he just wasn't going to give any ground. And neither was I. And you had to admire him for that. There's no doubt about it. And Stu Miller, I couldn't hit him either, dude. I mean, I couldn't hit him either. I tried everything, too. And it was amazing. It's just like he had the ball on a string, and when you go to swing, he'd pull it back. And he would swear no one could throw a ball that slow and get the home plate, but it did. The catcher could have caught him with a golf glove. He could have. Wouldn't have hurt his hand, but he didn't. But it is very difficult to hit a baseball. But the idea is here, just try to make good, solid contact. And enjoy yourselves, have fun. I was here last year, and when the camp was over, I asked Charlie if I could come back this year. And thank you for inviting me back again, Charlie, or whoever makes invitations. I enjoyed it. I would like to come back again next year we have it. But I just like to see you guys enjoying yourself. You look at you, the smiles, the happiness on your face, and the way you go about it, and the effort you put into it, it's just heartwarming to me to see that. And I mean that sincerely. I wish I could get out there and do that. But I'm too old for it. Enjoy yourself.
Thank you very much, Frank. You were talking about necks, and I have to kind of add a sideline to Hoyt Wilhelm, and Hoyt throwing that knuckleball, and I hope Hoyt will forgive me, because I've been telling this story for a number of years, and Al will know, because we hit against him for a lot of years in the American League. We used to call him Tilt. Hoyt would hold his head on the side like that, and I told Jim Lemon, who was a hitting instructor on a ball club, I'm having trouble hitting him. And Jim said, well, he says, it's very simple. He said, Hoyt holds his head like this, you go up to home plate and hold your head like that. And I was afraid to do that, because I was afraid Hoyt would think I was making fun of him. But Hoyt was so tough to hit. He was really great. Another guy that a lot of you campers had the opportunity to hear a lot of today was a guy that certainly is Mr. Enthusiasm here in the camp, and everybody's friend and buddy and most likable guy around, Mr. Cub, Ernie Banks. Ernie?
Thank you very much, Harmon. I'm going to be very brief. But I want you to listen to me. Lend me your ears, that's all. But first of all, let me say that my dream many, many years ago was to do what Frank Robinson did when he managed the Cleveland Indians. He was playing manager, and he put himself up at bat and hit a home run and to win the game. I always wanted to do that. Be a playing manager, put yourself up as a pinch hitter, hit a home run to win the game. That must have been a great thrill, wasn't it, Frankie?
That was where it ended, too.
But anyway, to me, hitting is very simple, as everybody has mentioned. It is eye-hand coordination. That's really what it is. You see the ball and your hands react to it. You see the ball and then your hands do it. I played at Wrigley Field, which is a baseball park where we played all our home games in the daytime, and the wind was always blowing out, so it was a little different style of hitting at Wrigley Field. But overall, that's all it is. If you can see the ball, pick it up, and your hands respond to it, then you can have pretty much success in it. And when you face a pitcher, you got to realize that the pitcher knows what's coming, but you don't. That's the uncertainty of being a hitter. He knows what he's going to throw, but you don't know what it is, so you have to more or less anticipate. Your eyes have to pick it up, and then you swing to hit it. So it's that part of baseball that I always enjoy, the uncertainty of facing a pitcher, batter-pitcher relationship. But overall, you all have good vision, and your hands are quick, and you're certainly going to have a lot of fun here. And we're looking forward to working with you longer. And by the time the camp is over, you all have a high batting average and great success, and you can share this with your friends. So I'm just so happy to be with all of you, and let's have some fun.
Thank you, Ernie. The next guy is a fellow that really helped me a lot when I was with the Dodgers in Brooklyn, and also in L.A. when he coached third base for us. Pee-wee used to pick out things that you do wrong at the plate and whistle at you from the coaching lines and let you know. We used to drive to the ballpark together in Brooklyn, and he would give me a lot of fatherly advice, and I'd listen to some of it. Throw some of it out the window, unfortunately, but we're going to get into a different phase of hitting now with fellows like Pee-wee and Lou Brock, who were sort of line drive and more team-oriented, I think, as far as giving themselves up a little bit more than some of us free-swinging hitters. And Pee-wee one time told me I was batting against someone, I don't remember who it was, but the count got to 3-2, and I choked up on the bat about 3 or 4 inches and took a little punch swing on an outside pitch and tried to hit it to left field and struck out. And Pee-wee sat next to me on the bench a little while later, and he says, "What are you doing, giving up?" And I said, "No." I said, "I tried to punch that ball to left field." And he says, "You let me take those kind of swings, trying to get on for you so you can hit it out of the park so we can both score." And that was really good advice for me, because I wasn't a punch-type swinger, and Pee-wee could hit and run well, and I think that's...
What are you saying, dude, that I was a punch-type hitter?
No. You're a team player.
You were a punchy team player.
Well, I stuck my size 10 in my mouth. Go ahead.
You know what, I'm smart enough to know it. I'm not going to sit up here and try to talk about hitting with all these great hitters, Robinson, Snider, Killebrew, Roberts. You know, it's funny to sit over there and listen to these great hitters talk. And they're always asking who's the toughest pitcher to face, and it's Stu Miller.
And I guarantee he couldn't break a pane of glass from here to that door over there. But Campanella had you hit, Stu Miller. No way. But it's a great. I have a lot of fun here, really, and I have a lot of fun working with Robin Roberts. And Robbie, one time you were pitching to me. Well, you pitched to me several times. And I can remember one day, and it killed Snider. The count was 3-0 on me, Robbie. And I looked down at third base, and he'd give me the hit sign. I said, "Oh my God, no! Not with Snider, the next hitter, he'll die." Well, to make it long, I had kind of halfway smile on my face. And Duke, you remember I did swing at it and popped it up, and you gave me hell. Duke and I were always very good friends. We lived real close together, and he was kind of a hard guy to handle, I'll have to admit. Wasn't he, Bev? A little tough, wasn't he? God, I'll give you a gold star, honey, for living with that guy. We used to play a lot of bridge on the Dodgers. We were all great bridge players, we thought. And in fact, we even had Charlie Gorn to come in and give us a lesson one day. If you beat him a hand in bridge, he would put a little blue ribbon on you. And a lot of guys thought if they beat him a hand in bridge, they thought, well, hell, he can't play at all. And Duke was playing bridge this one night at your house, Bev, and I'll never forget this. And I walked in back to Betty Erskine, and I'd given her advice on how to play a hand or something. Duke got mad, and I guarantee the next day he was supposed to pick me up, and I'm standing out in Brooklyn in Bay Ridge. He didn't come by, and I finally went back in the house, and I said, "Bev, where in the hell is Duke?" And he said, "Well, he's been gone to the ballpark a half an hour." He got mad because I said something about the bridge hand. Is that true, Duke? You're terrible, you know that? But if you think a 270 hitter is going to stand up here and to give you all hitting, you're crazy in hell. Good night. I enjoyed it. And we'll win this thing this year, Robbie, if it kills it. Yeah.
Boy, the truth really hurts, you know. Well, the next fellow is, they all talk about Stu Miller, and I can remember Stu Miller pitching against us for the first time when he came up to the Cardinals in St. Louis. We had a guy named Andy Pafko on our club, and Pafko was a pretty good hitter. Andy was throwing his bat at the ball. His bat ended up going further than the ball was most of the time. And everybody come back to the bench, and you see the guys on the bench, they're all turned like this, and they're laughing because it was embarrassing. Well, we ended up beating him that night. The catcher, Del Rice, threw a ball and hit somebody in the back, and the ball went out in right field. We beat him 1-0, I think. But he was tough. There's no question about that. But Campy, I think Sam Jones might have been kind of tough, too, because there was a picture of in the paper in Chicago of you sitting down in the batter's box swinging at a pitch, one of his curveballs. Well, anyway, Campy, I'd like to have Campy say a little bit about hitting, and here's a 3-time MVP, fellows, and that's about all you have to say.
Well, Stu Miller was something. we got a pretty good hitting ball club. The Cardinals had just brought up this young fellow from the minor leagues, Stu Miller, and he pitched against us that night. And you should have seen this. Well, we had some pretty good swingers, and buddy, they were swinging. The best thing we did that night, we had somebody pitch a bus that didn't give the Cardinals anything. And just as Duke said, we won the ball game 1-0. The catcher picked up a ball in front of home plate that somebody hit and hit the runner in the back. And we finally scored a run off of that, and we won the game 1-0. Now, I bet against Stu. I wasn't no guesser. I always stayed ready for the fastball. He had a fastball, but if you start looking for that jump hitter, he could get his little fastball right. So I said, now I'll stay ready for the fastball and try to go to right field with it. And I did that. This is when he pitched again against us in Brooklyn. I tried to go to right field and reached down to hit the ball and ended up in the left field seat. Now, this is the God's honest truth. I couldn't believe it myself. This guy had the best motion of anybody I've ever seen. But why didn't he stay with anybody? Don't worry. In this league, they get to you. They will get to you. They go to, as we say, they go to school, and this is true. But we had some fellas that could swing. Pafko, we made a big trade for him with the Cubs. Nothing about Ernie. Pafko was a heck of a ball player with the Cubs, although the Cubs never went no place. Excuse me, Ernie. The Dodgers were always at the top of the league, and we got Pafko, and Pafko couldn't do anything with us. Now, this is true. Why? It looked like every time we played the Phillies, Robin Roberts was pitching, and if he had beat us that night, he was in the bullpen the next night. So how can this man do it? Mentioning Robbie, I was catching him at an all-star game in Detroit one year against the American League. So I said, now, I've always batted against this guy. I thought I knew his pitches pretty good. I said, I'm gonna warm this guy up. So I'd know how he threw in the ball game. So I was warming him up, and his fastball, he said he's throwing a fastball. Look, the ball would break that much. So I said, hey, Robbie, what is that? He said, that's my fastball. I said, no, that's no fastball. And you gonna throw that on the fastball sign, and the ball's gonna break that much? Yeah, I said, well, who's gonna catch it? So no, this was just something I had with myself. I was gonna warm up all these guys before I called him. Now, I batted against this fella all the time. Yeah, I thought it was a little slider. He said, I don't throw a slider. You know, you learn a lot playing against the opposition in these all-star games. Another story, catching Bob Rush, a Cub pitcher in all-star game. He was colorblind. And how did I find this out? McCullough. He was on the all-star team with another Cub catcher. And he said, Campy, when you catch Bob, now he's colorblind, he can't read signs. I said, he can't read, how the hell do you catch him then? He said, I'll tell you what I do. When I put my heels together, that's a fastball. And when I open them up, that's a curveball. So I knew that when we played the Cubs from there. Bob Rush could bring it, buddy. He could bring it. So that's one reason why we wore the Cubs out. And Rush was their best pitcher. But it was a lot of fun. But that Stu Miller was something else. Duke, you can undress me now.
Speed with bat control, and of course he hit a home run last year in this ultimate camp. So he had power, but he utilized his speed and line drives as Lou Brock. Lou?
Don't forget the comfort zone.
Thank you, Mr. Spahn. I, too, like everybody else, my first time in the big leagues, first at bat, I got a chance to face a Hall of Fame pitcher. I got my first base hit on the first ball I saw. He struck me out the second time up, Robin Roberts. But the second time I struck out in the big leagues, Stu Miller got me. Stu Miller. Let me give you a scenario. how the strikeout came about. We go out to San Francisco, and the first thing they said to me, do not expect too much from Stu Miller. Count to 3 like Killebrew did, and wait for the pitch. So I'd heard all of these stories about Stu Miller, watched him on television, watched him throw his head, and here come the pitch. And I was standing up there looking for this slow pitch. You know, the one that you count 1, 2, 3? He threw me a fastball. I haven't seen it yet. A strike 1, and I could not gear my body up to react to his fastball. 3 consecutive fastballs right down the middle, and I couldn't hit it. And that was my experience with Stu Miller. But in terms of hitting, I'm like Killebrew. Once I got out of the game, you begin to look back. I saw that those first 2 strikeouts, I became, up until Stargell and Jackson, to have over 1,700 strikeouts. So I went to bat a few times without making contact as well. But by the same token, I started out with the Cubs, and to me there's 2 general philosophies on hitting. One is get a ball that you can drive. Home run hitters do this. They wait for a pitch in a zone hitting, what have you. The ball is in that zone, doesn't matter what it is. They're going to let go. Frank Robertson was talking about a second ago. Anything inside was his. Outside belonged to the pitcher. Well, that can work, and I tried to make it work my first 5 years in the big leagues. I had 21 home runs one year, hitting the ball out of the polo ground, traveling 500 feet, and that proved to me once and for all that I was a home run hitter. Nobody could dispute that. The problem was that I was only hitting about 10 a year. Got traded to St. Louis, and they said, we want you to become a spray hitter. What's a spray hitter? This is a guy that philosophers change about hitting. You no longer wait for a ball you can drive. You get what you can get on this pitch and this pitch only, which means that a ball is out of the strike zone. You see it well. You know full well the best you can get on this pitch is a single, and that's what you go for. I found out that you could generally use those 2 kinds of philosophy in hitting, but most of all, you had to react to the ball. There has not been a good hitter who couldn't react to the ball. We get all these theories about how to hit, how to hold your hand, but I tell you, if you cannot react to the ball, you're not going to hit anyway. So the idea of it is to react to the pitch, react to the ball. Everybody was talking up here earlier about ground balls, and I tell you, I didn't want to hit the ball on the ground either. I found out that 2 out of every 3 balls you hit on the ground, somebody caught them. And 1 out of those 2 was a double play. So I was going to keep the ball in the air. It would be a line drive hitter to a fly ball hitter. And I did that with the Cubbies. Got to St. Louis, I became a ground ball hitter to a line drive hitter. And suddenly I started having 300 years, over 200 hits. And it's true for the guys that couldn't run that well. 2 out of every 3 ground balls was potential double plays. But those things became the general philosophy on hitting. Get what I can get on this pitch and this pitch only, provided you can see it and can reach it. You can make contact, and you can hit that way. And the other one is wait for a ball in the zone and see if you can drive it. Those are the kind of things that I look back at and was able to do. But U.S. campers will be here only a week. The best thing you can do is react to what you see. I'm sure you come down with a long, shocking list, a menu on how to hit. Somebody have told you that. You walk around to every hitter here, and you get a different story. But there's one thing Ernie said a second ago, you got to see it before you can hit it. So my advice to you is to see the ball, react to it, just only react. Thank you.
One more thing about Stu Miller. Pee-wee said he couldn't break a pane of glass so far away. One night in the Coliseum in Los Angeles, Walter Alston had a meeting, and the night before, Miller was pitching in relief for the Giants against us, and he threw one close to somebody, and they jumped out of the way, and he says, if if he throws something closer, you don't get out of the way because he couldn't puff your lip. So that very next night, Norm Sherry's at bat. Stu Miller throws a pitch, and Norm takes one for the team right on the left wrist. We win the ball game. We use a runner for Sherry, and we win the ball game. Sherry shows up to the ballpark the next night with a cast on his wrist. He broke his wrist, and he ran up to Olson. He says, "I'll never believe you again." So he did throw hard once in a while, Lou. He got Norm. This has been great, fellas, and we'd like to have a couple of pitchers come up, but I guess they'll get their turn. And you might have some questions for some of these pitchers about hitting or about pitching, and we've got a few minutes, don't we, Guy, for some questions. Yes.
I'd just like to know if Stu Miller's going to be coming to the camp at all.
You better hope not.
Doesn't he belong in the Hall of Fame?
Well, according to what we've heard tonight, he sure does. Yeah.
Was Ernie, were you a guest hitter?
I guess so.
Were you a guest hitter?
That's a good question. No. No, I always felt that this is where you have to look in the batting on deck circle. You really have to visualize what you're going to do before you do it. Sounds crazy? You really have to see yourself getting a hit before you hit. And that's what I try to focus on. That's really focusing. They call that focusing. When I was on deck, pitcher warming up, and I'm ready to go to batter, but in my mind, I could see the ball going to left center or the right center, wherever I wanted to hit it. So I really didn't guess on any pitch. And I know that there's a lot of pros and cons on that. Look for certain pitches in certain areas. Look for certain speeds of pitches. Look for the breaking ball. Look for the changeup. Look for the pitcher's best pitch. I just try to visualize doing it before I did it. And I miss that right now. The one thing I miss about baseball, I'm not able to visualize something before I do it. You all have done this in business. You visualize yourself being successful. You visualize yourself doing. That's the same way in hitting a baseball or a golf ball or a tennis ball or any kind of ball. You really have to see yourself doing it. Try this tomorrow. Do me a favor. Before you get in the batter's box, visualize yourself getting a hit or a home run or whatever you want in your mind, and you will do it. Visualize.
Anybody else? Yeah.
I'd like to ask either Bob Feller or Campanella about Satchel Paige. Campy, did you bet against Satchel Paige?
Quite a few times.
What did you think?
Tremendous, outstanding. Could throw so hard and had the best control you wanted to see. Now this is in the Negro League.
Yes, correct.
And he was past his prime when he went up to the big league, and still did all right.
Thank you.
Okay, then there you have it. Good night, wasn't it? We'll see you tomorrow morning, 9 o'clock, out in the field. Bueller will be ready to stretch out. Okay, good night.
Biggs, get the bed.